So, welcome to Replenish. This is the atmosphere of discovery where we discover the master's plan about who we should be, who he created us to be, not what life has caused us to be. Okay. So, today's session is on navigating criticism. Today's session is on navigating criticism. Okay. So, criticism is disapproval based on perceived faults. Criticism is disapproval or approval based on perceived faults, right? It is an evaluation based on another person's perspective, okay? And so, how other people perceive things are according to the systems in their life, right? It's according to their family, their upbringing, their religion, even their life experiences, and other influences in their life, right? So, criticism is an evaluation based on another person's perception, okay? And we know that their perception, the way that they perceive things, is based on the systems that they have in their own lives. So, it's not based on your life, it's based on their life. And so this may be a new lesson for all of us, right? Learning how to navigate criticism, being comfortable with the opinions, the judgments, and even the disapproval of other people, right? Responding from a well trained, healed mind instead of just responding from our feelings, okay? Learning to not accept or approve of every single opinion that someone has, learning not to become what others disapprove of, especially if it's not your character, right? People can call you things that is not who you are, right? It does not mean that you have to start acting like what they called you when you know that is not who you are. Okay, so we want to be careful of accepting and receiving other people's opinion of us or their evaluation or their assessment of us because it is based on their perception. Okay, criticism can be provoking, right? Criticism can be triggering for most people, right? It can provoke jealousy, fear, rage, anger, and anxieties, and also be provoked by these things, right? So someone can be critical of you because of their jealousy, right? So it not only can cause jealousy, but someone can be provoked by their jealousy, by their anger, by their anxieties to be critical of you. Okay. Even though it can be provoking, right? You should not be provoked every single time that you feel judged. Okay. At some point, you should develop the emotional intelligence to navigate someone's opinion of you without becoming disturbed, without becoming unbalanced, right? Without becoming angry. It is just their opinion, it is their perceived notion of you, right? Someone judging you is not always bad. Someone assessing you or evaluating your motives or your intent, that is not always bad, right? Criticism can be constructive and instructive. Criticism can be constructive and instructive, right? It can build you up to be better and give you the instructions that you need to do so, right? The way that someone may deliver that constructive or instructive criticism may be bad, right? Maybe they didn't use the right words, or maybe they said it at the wrong time, but their perception can open your eyes to see things that you cannot see. Okay, so not all criticism is bad. Okay, you can use that criticism to identify your weaknesses in order to improve. Sometimes we don't see where we lack at. And so you can use that criticism to improve, to become better, and to grow. Okay, so think about the way that you judge other people, right? Is it constructive? Is it instructive? Or is it destructive? Right? Are you breaking someone's spirit by manipulating their thoughts and feelings? That's destructive criticism, right? The way you communicate your opinion or your judgment should be in a way that the other person can perceive it. The way it should be in a way that the other person can understand it, right? You don't just say it how you see it. The goal should be to give them information, to give them knowledge, to improve them as a human being, not just get a point across, right? If you are just criticizing someone to get a point across, if you're doing that, that is not righteous judgment, okay? Which as believers, we are required to be just, okay? So now that you know this, change and tweak how you communicate your opinion and your assessment of other people, right? And respond better to the people that criticize you, okay? If their opinion is out of love, meaning they have proven that they mean you well, so if their opinion is out of love, use what they say. Use what they say, not how they say it. Like I said, they may say it wrong or they may say it at the wrong time. But if you know this person has proven that they mean well for you, that they have your best interest, if they're saying it out of love, use it as a moment to reflect on their perspective of you in order for you to improve. Okay. Not all criticism is bad. If the opinion is to be malicious, right? If it's destructive criticism, you can ignore it. Don't internalize it, right? And tell them you don't receive that. You know, let them know, yeah, I understand that's how you feel, but I don't receive that from you. Meaning you're simply telling them, I'm not consenting to what you're saying about me. I'm not agreeing with you. I'm not approving of that, right? Because when you approve or you accept or you consent to what somebody say about you, you make it equal to you. When you accept it, you make it equal. You make it valid. Okay. So in this society these days, we are so used to rejecting or abruptly reacting to judgment, right? We instantly reject it. Or we act abruptly. We act from our feelings. We're not even processing the thoughts or thinking of where could this possibly come from? Is it true? Right? We instantly react negatively, right? And because of this, most of the time you will not see changed or improved behavior unless the only time we will change behavior is if it come in the form of a job evaluation or a credit report. Say it's a loan you want. We would change the behavior of the way we're managing our credit. We don't mind that type of criticism. We'll change for that, but we won't change when our loved ones and people who actually care about us tell us that, hey, the way you're doing this is wrong. You know what I mean? And it's constructive criticism. Okay. Fear of judgment and rejection stunts growth emotionally, economically, and spiritually. Fear of rejection, fear of judgment, it stunts your growth emotionally, economically, and spiritually. Most successful, happy people have already overcome those fears. They've already had to be rejected so many times that they've learned that this is just a learning process. It's not a no forever for the rest of my life, right? You learn what you can do better, you do better, and then you succeed. So most successful, happy people have already learned how to overcome rejection. They've already learned how to overcome that fear of being judged, right? So when criticism is incorrect or malicious, it is destructive criticism. So you have constructive and instructive criticism, and then you have destructive criticism. Okay. When you constantly experience destructive criticism, it makes criticism abusive. Okay. So people might say, oh, I'm just giving you constructive criticism. But if it's constantly destructing you, it's abusive at this point. Okay. Defensive reactions are automatic when you are willing to undermine your position, when you are willing to go beneath your character to be offended, right? When we talked about offense, we talked about the nature of offense a few sessions back. We talked about in order to be offended, you have to go lower or you have to look back. To be offended is not something in front of you. It's not towards where you're going. You always have to look low or look behind you in order to be offended, because that means someone said something that is below your nature, that is below who you are, and you are making it valid by paying attention to it. Okay. Oftentimes criticism make you feel as if you've done something wrong, right? Or that you are below someone else's standard or someone else's view of you. But being able to manage the feeling in order to determine if it may be the truth, it causes you to exercise your emotional intelligence, right? So you want to manage that feeling, right? Be aware that your feelings can direct your thoughts, but you should be directing your thoughts, right? So that you don't get caught in your feelings. Because sometimes our feelings lie to us, but even if they are telling the truth, you don't want to react based just off your feelings. You don't want to stay stuck responding out of what you feel instead of what is the truth, right? So when you do not have a choice, okay, when you do not have a choice but to be around overly critical people, and we're talking about like at work, some family members, um, you know, maybe you don't have a choice, but you have to be around these overly critical people. You have to develop thicker skin, and you have to have a constant recharging of your spirit. Because if someone is malicious in their criticism, they will break your spirit. Okay. So you have to do what you have to do to constantly keep your spirit charged up. Overly critical people, they will bring you down to their opinion of you, right? They will bring you down to their opinion. It's not who you are, but it is who you will become because you're constantly hearing it, the negativity over and over and over, right? Because you're constantly digesting their words. So you become what you are constantly feeding yourself. Okay. Being around somebody who constantly makes you feel as if you're under attack will increase your blood pressure. It will increase anxieties. It will increase your fears, right? It can also diminish your individuality. Okay. It can disrupt the patterns of your character that actually form your identity. And then you start tweaking things and becoming and saying and doing things that's not even in your character to do. Okay. So now you begin to be less than who you are for fear of being judged according to your true character. Okay. Your natural patterns and processes begin to be interrupted because you keep hearing what they were saying about you, right? You start inserting certain strategies and ways of thinking in order to avoid judgment, right? And there's a lot of premeditation and role playing in your mind, right? You say, okay, so if I do this, they'll do that. Or if I don't do this, then they won't do that. All that, they're role playing. You speaking for them. You have a whole like play situation going on in your mind about what they're going to do and what they're going to say. If you do this, if you do that, you play their role in your mind. It hasn't happened, but that's what's going on in your mind. Meanwhile, they've given no thought to it, right? They're relaxed, they're calm, they're going on with their life and their day, and you're sitting here playing them in your head, right? So you're full of all of these preconceived notions. You're anxious, your heart is racing, right? And they've given no thought to it, right? Criticism can be a manipulation tactic to shame other people. Some people use criticism as a manipulation tactic in order to shame other people. And this tactic is used to demoralize you. It causes you to lose confidence and it is used to break your spirit. Okay. Some people choose to shame you because they feel inferior to you, right? And their insecurity causes them to resort to insults. Okay. Their view of your being superior to them highlights their personal failures. So they got to bring you down to where they are to how they feel. Okay. And this is why those type of people should not be your only influence. I understand if you have to deal with these type of people because, it's your parents or, well, if you're an adult, I don't know if you really have to deal with your parents, but still have to be respectful. But sometimes it's people at your job. You have to see them every day, right? But these type of people should not be the only people that are influencing you. You should be doing things daily to feed your spirit so that it cannot be so easily broken by what someone speaks. Okay. We cannot let our spirit grow hungry because there's people there waiting to break you and they will do it. And I mean, they don't have to be physical. You know, they can just use words to emotionally manipulate you. Okay. So resist the urge to argue. Look at criticism as simply an assessment. Stop looking at it as someone judging you, or it's just an opinion. It's an assessment. It's somebody else's evaluation. Okay. The way it is delivered to you may be rude or off-putting, but it still could be true. Right. And that's what you have to pay attention to. Those are the ones that you pay attention to. Okay. So if you think about if somebody else's boss gave you an assessment and it had no weight, no influence on your actual job, they're just giving you like an assessment to see where you are. Would you be so amped up and take their assessments to heart if it wasn't going to affect your job? Probably not. Right. So when someone is assessing you, when someone is criticizing you, understand that they do not have the power to change your status. It is an opinion. It is a perception. And you have the choice to accept it or reject it. Okay. So don't look at criticism as, oh, they always judging me. They always critical of me. Just it's an assessment. And you determine, hey, is this really something I need to look at? Or is it something I can just ignore? Okay. The truth is, you are good enough for the right people. You are good enough for the right environment. You are good enough when you are going the right direction. When you are evaluated by others, it is an opportunity to look at yourself and improve or reject what they're trying to push upon you. Okay. So when you are faced with criticism, your response consents to improvement or growth or to destruction and delay. So your response to the criticism, you are either consenting to improvement and growth, or you are consenting to destruction and delay. Okay. If you were constantly criticized as a child, never seeming to do anything right for your parents, for your siblings, your teachers, your friends, all of the people that were in your life, you may have begun being overly critical in your adult life, right? Because you've adopted those same behaviors that you saw and that you heard growing up. But even at your age, you have to address the criticism that you are still accepting as when you were a child. Some of you are still replaying those words that were said to you as a child, and you're constantly accepting them every day. You hear them every day. Every time you have a good idea or something you want to do, you hear something your grandma told you that was negative, and then you talk yourself out of it, right? So reject that victim mentality. You have to reject the self-resentment. You have to reject the self-hatred, the blame shifting, and you have to choose to become who you would be had you not been shamed, diminished, and silenced, right? This is something you have to choose every day. Because if you've heard it every day growing up, multiple times a day, if you've heard these negative things all while growing up, you have to choose every day to reject it until you no longer hear those things, right? So at this point, it is your choice to change and no longer be a product of what you may have unknowingly received before when you were a child. So I don't know how many of you are still hearing those things, those negative things, the negative criticism that was spoken upon you as a child. And you have to think about how often you heard that. So if you heard it every day, 20, 40 times a day, you have to think about what you have to do to put the positive back into you. So those voices you no longer hear, right? Your ideas and your abilities will be subject to criticism almost every day. Accept it. Okay, unless you are a hermit, living out way in the woods somewhere, you never have to contact people, your ideas and your abilities will be subject to criticism almost every day. If you fear criticism, if you fear judgment, you will not make yourself visible. You will not take opportunities, and you will not show up for yourself. Okay. So break the fear of judgment so that you can show up for you. And after you start showing up for you, you will be able to show up for those that are waiting for you. right? Those that are waiting to accept you because you've been so busy trying to be accepted by people that has nothing to do with your destiny. Okay? They need what you have. You need what you have. Okay? You may be praying to God for him to do things that are inside of you, right? He's already placed it there when he formulated your DNA. It's already there. The things you're praying for, the breakthrough you're waiting on, is already on the inside of you. So don't allow criticism to derail your purpose and hijack your character. It only has the power that you consent to, that you approve of, that you accept, and that you receive from it. Okay. So learn how to navigate criticism effectively. Don't just go off your feelings. Don't resist the urge to argue about someone's opinion. It is an opinion, right? It is their assessment and their evaluation of you based on their perceptions, right? Which is based off of whatever influenced them. So you don't want to give it so much power because you have the choice to consent to it. And so that was today's session on navigating criticism. I hope you received some nuggets that you will be able to use, and you won't be so afraid of judgment, afraid of what someone will say. You will stop playing them in your head while they're relaxing and you're getting all anxious and worked up. That affects our blood pressure. It affects us physically, right? Those high stress environments. And so we want to be cautious of how things emotionally can affect us physically, right? Because stress is killing people and it's causing deadly diseases. And so we want to be as worry free. We want to be as calm and peaceful as we can. We don't want to be the ones that's adding stress when it's not there. Okay. So I want to close with this statement. This feeling is temporary. Okay. It is just a process. Face your disappointments in yourself and in others. Some stuff is your fault. It was a bad decision, but you can make it better. You can change the outcome. Your life is more than the sum of your hard experiences. Your life is more than your pain. It is more than your failures. You can still climb that mountain or command it to move. You will live again. Your happiness is not determined by what is happening now. It is determined by what will happen later. And so what you do with this moment is imperative to you understanding why you needed to go through it, why it had to happen to you. And after that, you will see that it happened for you. Everything works for our good. Okay, so you take what was given to you take what was shown to you assess it, you don't operate out of your feelings, you don't be fearful of opinions and judgment because you are a human being. If you have ideas, if you have a purpose and a plan, you will be criticized, you will be judged, you will be evaluated. Let's accept that part, right? But what they're actually telling you, you don't have to consent to. Okay. You can choose to ignore it. You don't have to receive every negative thing that someone says about you. Now, if the criticism is constructive or instructive, they're instructing you of something, of a way to make something better, stop arguing. Just do it. If you know it's a better way, just do it. It's to better you, especially with people that has proven to be for you, right? And then you have some people that act like they're for you and they're not. So I just wanted to have this session with you all to teach you how to navigate criticism. It's not all bad, but when it is bad, you need to do something about it. You don't need to accept it. You don't need to receive it. You don't need to internalize it. You don't need to take it with you to the grave. A lot of that stuff that people have said to us and repeated to us years ago, we're still holding on to. We still hear it in their voice. Like we could tell you the exact place we was, and you let that go. Let that go. Be free. Let it go. It's not what God says about you, so you shouldn't take their word over God's word anyway. So you're fearfully and wonderfully made. That's it. That's all. Nobody else's opinion matters. Okay. So go and be blessed. And I will see you all next Friday at 3 o'clock.